All right, you know what that sound means, everybody. It means that it's time for Practical Chrome. This is episode 36, called Lenovo N20p Chromebook. We're going to do a little review of that model, the awesome Lenovo model. But before we do, we would like to thank our sponsors for the show. First of all, we're going to have the Effective Group. The Effective Group do need a fantastic website that not only looks great on mobiles and tablets, but also gets you selling online. Then Effective Group is the company for you. To find out more about Effective Group, view their portfolio, and read about their successes, visit effective-group.com. And also by Coinbase. Coinbase is an international digital wallet that allows you to securely buy, use, and accept Bitcoin currency. Coinbase is Bitcoin safe and easy. Visit them today through our referral link to help the show. Visit coinbase.practicalchrome.com. All right, so yes, that's what this episode is about. Craig and James, you can go ahead and unmute yourself because this is a time that you can actually interrupt. So this episode...
Hi, John.
Hi. Hi, James.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Correct. James Welbus and Craig Tomlinson, of course, are joining me as they do every week. And this week,
Hi, Craig.
Hey, James.
How are you?
Not too bad.
John, are you okay?
Go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves. No, seriously. Okay. Greg's like, see, that's why I wanted to be muted. Okay. Because I can't handle it. Okay. No, I'm serious. I do want to go unmuted this week. I do want to go unmuted all the time just because... Excuse me. Sorry, I have the case of the giggles. I do apologize. It's happened before. It happens a lot of times, actually. Plus, it's late at night and I'm tired. Sorry, everybody. Craig Tomlinson, James Welbus, of course, are joining me this week. Thanks, James, for the comedic relief. To be honest, I needed that. Get a little... I felt good, actually. So, guys, this week is about the fact that Lenovo did officially set its sights on the consumer market and released the N20p model, which is a touch model. It's a touchable and it's convertible. With industry-leading enterprise computers, I want to know if Lenovo can, kind of come out with a Chromebook, something light, not a ThinkPad, something that's a little bit more affordable by the masses, things like that. So that's kind of what this episode's about. So guys, go ahead and unmute again. I can handle it, I promise. I promise. I won't get the giggles, I promise. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. Craig, how are you doing this week?
I would say, judging from so far, a little slightly worse off than you are, John, but still pretty good.
I swear, I'm not like... Woo! That was rough. James, how are you doing this week, sir?
Fantastic.
See, he's good. See, and Craig's good, and I'm good. So the reason I want to go unmuted, right? And I do want to go unmuted. I promise I will keep it together. I haven't had a case of the giggles like that in a long time. A long time. Whew. So, Craig, how was your week, sir? Did you do anything fun? Did you do anything exciting? Anything Chrome-like? Did you do anything with your Chromebook?
Which question should I answer first?
It's open mic, man.
Oh,
James could
open
even
mic?
answer. James could answer right now.
I don't think James is here. He disappeared for a minute. My week's been pretty good. Not that it's super relevant to the conversation, but yeah, it's been all right.
All right. And James, how about you, sir?
I did things on my Chromebook.
Did you do things?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's good. Did you get that's that's good. That's good. Well, guys, this is the show.
Homework.
See, Homework was completed. I like that. That works. Of course, this is the show dedicated to everything Chrome, whether that be the Chrome browser, Chrome OS, Chromebooks, Chromecast. We have some Chromecast news this week. It's all about the Chrome. That's what we do here. And this week, like I said, we're going to be doing the N20p. We've got some news, things like that. I guess we'll get into it. And we'll see what happens, right? Open mic. So that means interrupt at any time. You hear a headline you don't like. You're like, the headline is not good, or that news is bad. Just jump right in there. Okay, the reason why I'm doing this, and of course they're still both muted. My Giggle Fest thing just didn't work out very well. Probably scared you guys a little bit. I do apologize about that. But my point is, most podcasts are people talking to each other. Yes, we have the whole taking turns thing, but I want to kind of make it a little bit more, So because the review is going to be small, I do want to do a little bit of feedback based on last week's episode. Last week's episode was pretty intense, honestly. Craig, would you say it was intense?
Yes, I would, John.
I would say it was intense.
Thank you, James. So last week was intense, and we did get some feedback. I meant to bring it up, but we got some feedback, and honestly, I will read it because I think it pertains, right? It has to do with like what we were doing last week, and they make a point about the fact that we didn't have anybody on from an administrator or an IT guy from a school, which I thought would have actually been something important, and I would have liked to have done. I really would have. I've actually reached out to one guy that we've had on the show before, BJ. He wasn't available, so we couldn't have BJ on. And so I'm trying to see if I can find it really quickly, but so his comment here, I found it. So he said that he found it unfair that we were trying to have a public discussion about schools and privacy, which I agree with. That he makes a valid point there. And then particularly with the Chrome management, we didn't bother to invite somebody or an IT person. So someone that had used the software in general. So, and they ended up with also find most of this conversation to be grossly misinformed. So my response was that this show is dedicated to all things Chrome, right? But we're also people that care about privacy and people that are parents, and we see the things, that the ramifications as they spread. So we wanted to talk about this. And I thought that we actually did a pretty good job of doing that. Yeah, Craig, I mean, again, I thought it was. I wanted to mention the comment because I think it was important. But what are your thoughts on the fact that how we approach the subject?
I think from a public discussion standpoint, we probably could have done a better job, and maybe we should have done a better job of trying to remain fair and balanced. But you make a great point. This is not a conference or something like that. This is three practical people sitting around discussing this week in the news and thoughts about Chrome. And I think the point that really needs to be driven home is, if our discussion was misinformed, then the correct information is not readily available to anybody except the people working with the software on a daily basis. And I think that's part of the problem, and I think we hit on that a lot during our discussion. We raised questions. That's mostly what we did. We raised a lot of questions, and you took the liberty of answering a few of them, but mostly it was questions. It was, well, who has access to this data? What data is there? One school may do this, another school may do that. And because there's not a lot of transparency, those questions can't easily be answered even by people with a savviness for technology. So if it was a failure on our part, then it's also a failure on the part of the people making the software and the people using the software for not keeping people informed. And that's my perspective on the matter. I I think we did an adequate job. I'm not going to say we did the best job in the world, but I think we did an adequate job for the relative to the show, and I'm proud of the work we did. And I don't feel I don't take the comments personally, just as I didn't mean anything I said personally toward the people that were kind enough to offer their input. I have a lot of respect for people that work in education. I do. And even though I may disagree with some of their personal ideology, that doesn't mean I respect them any less as people. I hope that wasn't lost in the translation during our show.
See, and I agree. James, what were your thoughts? I mean, I've had a chance to re-listen just because of the fact that after getting the comments, I didn't take the comments personally. What they took them as criticism, right? As you know, we release this show once a week. We are three guys who just love Chrome and want to talk about it and want to discuss it and want to relay that information out to people who want to listen. We have roughly 550 listeners a week via YouTube and via the MP3. So our reach isn't huge, but we do a little bit of a service, and it is a public forum a little bit. So I do take this as criticism, and I try and take it in. James, what are your thoughts about hearing that comment about? I mean, what would be your feedback to someone that heard what we were talking about?
Well, John, this is the first time hearing of this comment. I didn't read any of the comments or the feedback or anything because I just don't care. No, I'm kidding. I care a little bit. I would. My main response would be I'm very curious to know in what way we were misinformed. If I was to guess, I would say most of the misinformation probably came from myself. We all have come to expect this by now. So I would really like to know what exactly we said that was actually wrong. And to be honest, I have a feeling probably we just said a lot of things that person disagreed with, not necessarily things that were non-factual. That's just a guess. I don't know. I don't think we tried to state too many facts, really. And I think the ones that we did state came from the app's website, the list of things that it can do. So I'm not really sure how we were super misinformed, but
we weren't really misinformed, though. I would have to agree with you. I don't think we were necessarily misinformed. I think that we had listened to a lot of comments on Craig's post, and a lot of people were from the schools. So I'm going to say that we weren't.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we put forth misinformation, is what I'm saying. But I could be wrong.
And I agree. And I totally agree.
So, but it is nice to hear the criticism because, like you said, we try to. We're not just doing this. We're obviously not doing it for money because we only accept Bitcoin and nobody uses that. So we're not in this for the money. We're doing this because it's fun. We like Chrome, and if we can bring news and information to people, then it does kind of feel like we're doing a service. So it's good to see the criticism and see how we can improve. I didn't have a huge interest in the topic we talked about last week, so I don't care as much about the feedback, just because it's not something I'm passionate about. Craig's pretty passionate about it. He's the one that brought it up and put it on Google+. And so for me, it was fun to hear him talk about it, and I hope that's what other people got out of the show too, is just three guys sitting around talking about stuff that was enjoyable to hear. I hope we didn't put out any false information for anybody or make anybody feel bad. That's definitely not the intention of the show.
No, none whatsoever. Not at all. And for those that didn't get a chance to see the last episode or hear it, it was called After the Last Bell, and it had to do with the privacy of Chromebooks that are given out by schools. So if you get a chance, check out that episode and hear us rant and rave. Okay, I ranted and I raved. I went a little nuts. I listened to it and I was like, whoa! Got even a little crazy. All right, James, that's not what I meant by open mic. Come on now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mute myself.
Woo! I'm telling you, that really gets me. It just gets me. I love it. All right. So before we can, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the news. I think we've covered the feedback a little bit. we are going to get a look at the Lenovo N20p here in a minute. But before we do that, we are going to get into the news a little bit. I'm going to dive in. Check it out. But before we do that, I do want to talk about, yes, James, we're going to talk about some Bitcoin, some Coinbase. So this is our first sponsor for this episode. And so the question might be, like, what is Coinbase, right? I mean, if you're watching the YouTube video, you got the website up on your screen, and you're like, come again? But what Coinbase is Bitcoin safe and easy. Do you know that more and more companies are accepting Bitcoin? Has someone offered you a Bitcoin exchange for goods or services? With Bitcoin's popularity growing more and more, having a well-known source to purchase, sell, and keep your Bitcoin is really important. And Coinbase can be your easy and worry-free source for Bitcoin and Bitcoin transactions. Coinbase allows you to send Bitcoin to others, buy new Bitcoin with US dollars, and also cash out Bitcoin back into US dollars. If you're concerned about getting into using Bitcoin as a currency, then Coinbase is really your best first step. With some of the strongest security, stronger than most banks, Coinbase makes using Bitcoin incredibly safe. Please visit Coinbase today through our referral link to let them know that Practical Chrome Podcast sent you by going to coinbase.practicalchrome.com. Again,
John, I will say this.
yes.
I know I poke fun at Coinbase a lot because I'm an insecure person, but I did actually use it. I have made a transaction with Coinbase. It was not the worst thing I've ever done. It was very similar to other things where, verified my bank account. All these things that I've done before was pretty familiar to me. And I made a successful transaction, and none of my information was stolen and sold on the interweb. So it was safe, secure, and not hard.
See?
I'll probably never do it again, but I did it once, and it was an okay experience.
Listen, you have to stop in your head. Like when you've made a good comment, we have to then stop. All right, thank you though, James. I do appreciate it. I know you did make that transaction. That was pretty cool. So I'm glad you had a good time with it with your first endeavor into the Bitcoin. But listen, moving forward, gentlemen. So VMware and NVIDIA think they have something going on. Well, they don't think they do. Here's what I don't like about this. So here's the article. Chrome OS getting virtual desktop solutions thanks to VMware NVIDIA partnership. I like it. I love it, actually, because I use VMware with work, and I use their HTML5 client that allows me to use a Chromebook to access it without having any actual app, right? Unlike, my Windows machine, not unlike, but my Windows machine can do the same HTML5 connectivity. So, okay, so let me back up. So, Craig, you know about the whole VM, BDI, virtual desktop infrastructure deal, right? You're down?
I'm vaguely familiar.
You're familiar? James, are you familiar, sir? Are you down?
Sure.
Sure. See, sure. So, let me. I feel okay. So, no muting, Craig. So what VDI is, or VMware is talking about, what VMware does is they take a server, and let's say it's like a super powerful blade server, and it has 16 CPUs, each with 4 cores, and then even like a GPU or 2 or 3 or 7 or whatever, and then a hard drive rack below that. So now you have this. It's basically a computer. We call it a server, but it's basically a computer, and it's sitting there, and it usually does something high end, like take care of a large computation, database, something like that. Like, we think of servers as like these, beasts, right? And they are expensive, and they're built to A, last, B, be cooled, C, be, have major, warranties and contracts involved and things like that. So like, they're expensive and they're hard to maintain. But they're really just the same thing that we buy, just in a different package and tighter integration and, right, more expensive at the enterprise level. So what VMware does is it lays a layer. They call it the virtual machine layer, or VM layer, right? And what they do is they parse out the resources of that machine into little desktops. So if you have that large, server that's slid in there, the Blade server, really expensive, and it goes in and it's got, again, 16 CPUs and then 4 to 8 cores per CPU. What they do is then they can easily make small and large desktops, right? So Sally might only do bookkeeping, so she gets a 1 gigabyte of RAM and only like 2 CPUs or 2 cores, and then she only needs about 10 gigs of hard disk space because she has the OS, which could be Windows 7 or whatever you want, honestly, Linux or whatever. And then there's John. He's a developer. He needs 4 gigs of RAM. He's going to be installing a lot of software, so he needs 40 gigs of hard disk space. So this is kind of how this works, right? And the VM has that layer that says, I'm going to take a server, which is really just a computer with a lot of power, and I'm going to splice out this. I'm going to put this layer on it in between the hardware and the software, even the operating system, and say, hey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be a system that actually has little desktops on it, and we're talking like the whole thing. The whole OS is on the hard drive, right? And it spins up in a RAM. So that's what VMware does. So has a version of open source software out there. So that's how this all works. So VMware coming out and saying they're having this partnership with NVIDIA, and then of course Chrome OS is involved because it's really lightweight and it just uses the browser, which is going to use HTML5. Everybody down?
Sure.
Of course.
Did I describe it too much? Was that too much? That's probably too much.
No, you did a pretty good job. I've worked with virtual private servers and hosting for years, and it's a very similar concept. It's essentially the same. But all people really need to understand is that you're taking a device, you're creating multiple user accounts, and you're letting people remotely access those accounts on demand simultaneously.
Sort of. Because you will actually have your own OS. Like you can
Right.
make it. You can do it in a couple different ways, but you can make it so that OS is their OS, so they can't really talk to the others. You might be sharing an image, but you would have, like, as John installs something and Sally installs something, they can't see the installs, right? So
True.
It's like having your own desktop in the cloud. Basically, is what it is. Right?
I think that's Amazon's branding for it.
Probably. So here's the deal. So Chrome, now what's funny is that they've talked about this in multiple instances. Citrix has said this, VMware has said this, and that is, hey Chrome OS users, and hey Enterprise, we all know you have Windows apps out there that you need to have more power. You can't just use a web-based app. So that's why this news is kind of like, it's just NVIDIA talking about using more graphics acceleration on the back end, and then somehow they're saying that they're tying in the GPU here, but I don't see that really happening because it's not. You're still just using HTML5 to display the desktop on the back end. So I don't really. It seems really kind of like a fluff piece a little bit to me because there's no description of how this operates, right? So they call it the this new workstation class virtual desktop tech leverages NVIDIA's Grid vGPU technology in conjunction with VMware Blast performance. So basically, they're still just parsing the GPU on the server. So they're virtualizing the GPUs, right? In a sense, just like they do with the CPU. So I get that, and it's cool, but it really doesn't have much to do with, like, you don't have to have an NVIDIA Chromebook to make that work. I don't mean to belittle it. I'm just saying that's why I see it kind of as it's cool, uber cool, and I can't wait to get my hands on one of those NVIDIA chip. Those things look awesome. But those are my thoughts. I mean, you guys know about the VMware and the virtual stuff. I mean, do you think it's a big deal that, like? I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal.
I think it's a transitional step for enterprise. Truly, I think NVIDIA's play here has nothing to do with the consumer market. This was not at a consumer trade show that they showed off and made a big deal about it. It was at a trade show designed for tech people in a buying capacity at a company. I mean, that's the target audience for these types of shows. So I think you're right. It doesn't necessarily require anything special from the NVIDIA chip. But if NVIDIA can align themselves as the brand you think of when you think remote desktop, then they have a marketing play. And that's fair game. Fair to them for doing that. It's a good strategy. But I'm torn on this because in one sense I'm really, really excited for it. I've been waiting to get rid of my Windows 7 PC and shove it out to the web for years. But I also really want to wait for the individual applications on demand. When I can buy from Adobe a copy of Photoshop on a monthly billing cycle that will stream on demand straight from Adobe, that's when they have all of my money. That is my ideal.
And I think that's what we're really looking at here, is that NVIDIA is talking about the fact that they're going to sell a server with an NVIDIA chip on it and then parse it out. That's really what they're talking about. They talk about the Chromebook, but really what they're selling is a VMware layer that allows the GPU to be parsed out to the different desktops however much is needed.
Right.
So that's really what they're selling. So this really doesn't have anything to do with us.
Not really, but if they can rope us into it and get on, if they can hop on board that train that's going to Chrome OSville from Windows 7ville, and they can get on it early, then they can ride the marketing shuffle down.
Exactly. James, are you going to Chrome OSville?
I've been in Chrome OSville for like 2 years, John.
Well, there you go. See?
Sometimes I have to make a long-distance call to Windowsville, but I don't enjoy it when I do.
I totally agree. All right, so that was that, and I don't mean to belittle that whole thing. I saw it as a little bit of a fluff piece for the sales thing. I think Craig's talking about the fact that it's just a name recognition thing. So just get it out there. So listen, the Baytrails. Now we're going to talk about Baytrails coming up, but Toshiba's got a Baytrail coming out. I think Acer. That's not factual. I have not heard anything from Acer at all. Really. But I think they might have something in the works, Baytrail-wise. Toshiba's got it. I'm holding a Lenovo. I'm broadcasting from Lenovo with running Baytrail. I'm actually doing the screen share from a Baytrail. I'm using it's the Yoga 11e. Excuse me, I've got a rough throat there. So the Baytrails are big now, right? Everyone talking about Baytrail, right? Everyone's talking about it. It's like the biggest thing since sliced bread.
I'm over it. I'm ready for the Broadwells.
Are you over it? Look at you. See, James is already over it. Craig, James has said his piece. He's like, no more unboxings, and you say the word Baytrail again, I'm leaving. So Toshiba's coming out with one, right? They're going to have a 4 gig, a 2 gig. Again, everyone talking about the Baytrail. And basically, it's an ARM competitor. It's a low-end chip. On the back of this Lenovo, there's no fans. You get no fans because it's a Baytrail chip, just like the ARM chips. It's not a unique design to have fanless. ARM's already out there. I think it's great that Toshiba's coming out with a killer model, another great model. But the Baytrail's going to be big, Craig.
My gut says, unfortunately, yes. I've expressed this concern before. The Baytrail, because they're a lower-end chip, they're going to be the bottom of the barrel as we progress. When we talk about things like bringing Android apps over running native client, the Baytrail devices are going to become the devices that become sluggish. So I think they're going to be popular because they're cheap and they offer phenomenal battery life. But 2 years from now, they're going to be really sluggish, just like the Atoms are today, that we saw 2 years ago on the Samsung and Acer models originally. So I think what I would really love to see is I'll call it the Acer model applied elsewhere, which is where you release one form factor, one design, you release a Haswell chip, a Baytrail chip, throw in an i3 for good measure. Just give options with the same form factor, same case design. Maybe poke holes in one of them for fans, whatever it takes. But allow the consumer to choose their level of performance in a granular fashion. Because otherwise, you're just stuck into, oh, well, I really love the screen on that device. I love the keyboard on that device, but it only comes with this low-end chip. So now I'm stuck. Design versus performance. And that's a trap that I think the HP 11 fell right into. Amazing device. Amazing device. Terrible chip. There were no options available there. So I'm afraid for Baytrail. I'm afraid.
I fear it a little bit too. I fear it. I think James already done hearing about it. James, are you seriously done? I mean, are you like Craig?
No.
Are you worried? Because I mean, I think all three of us are worried about it. And honestly, now that I've played with one, I'm not gonna give it away. But I agree with Craig.
I wouldn't say I'm worried so much. I'm wondering if there's going to be people who don't know any better who are going to choose it just because it's Intel, and maybe we're so used to Intel performing better than ARM, and then they're going to get home and they're going to find out that it's not really performing any better than a Samsung Exynos chip or some other ARM chip. It's cool because it's another option, and it is better than ARM. Mainly because of battery life, I would say. I don't know, performance-wise, they're probably pretty close. They're both fanless, but from what I understand, they're supposed to offer around 10.5 hours of battery life. The ARM books, I think, maybe get around 6 or 7. I'm not really sure. But really, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed when they come home with an Intel Chromebook and find out that it's not performing like the Haswell or obviously the i3. And I think Craig's right. They're going to be, right now, I would say ARM's probably the bottom of the barrel right now. The ones that are a little bit sluggish, people complain about sometimes when they want to have 62 tabs open and whatnot, or they're running things that just take a lot of power. And I think Baytrail might just kind of be the new bottom of the barrel. And ARM and Baytrail might be fighting for that position for a little bit until someone else comes out with something else worse.
I agree, but I will say that you say ARM has terrible battery life. If you look at the Samsung device, that's true. But if you look at the new Acer device with the NVIDIA chip, one of the models claims 13 hours. If that holds up, it will be the longest-lasting Chromebook currently available. That is not the 1080p model. That is the low-definition model.
Right.
But still, it's an ARM chip.
Mm-hmm. Right, but then again, there's now Dinson at Chrome Story. He has in his article, he talks about the fact that the battery life moving from 9.5 hours on the Haswell to a 10.5 hours on the new Baytrail chip. Now,
not worth it.
Is that worth it?
1 extra hour? I'd rather have the Haswell.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, let's talk about display, though. Is that Baytrail device have a 1080p display versus a low-definition display on the Haswell chip? Because screen is your battery drain, not just processor.
It is a 13-inch screen versus an 11-inch if you look at the Haswell on most models.
I know a lot of people are saying that they're willing to trade a little bit of performance, a little bit, mind you, for the 1080p display.
A little bit. That's a big little. That's the only problem.
Well, with the low end of Chromebooks, we are talking about big littles.
Exactly. Okay, I'm down. Okay, so let's keep going. We'll get into Baytrails more, but listen, Toshiba coming out with 13-inch Baytrail computers. It's still cool. I mean, I like it, right? I'm down. I'd like one. Ship me a couple. Awesome.
What's the pricing like?
Let's check it. All right, Dinson doesn't have anything because this was just like leaks. I think though that Joey from OMG Chrome.
Joey does not have a price.
Anything more than 200, and I'm not interested.
I would agree. With the Baytrail, anything above 250 is just out of the question, and we saw that with the Asus devices, the C200 and C300. Those were retailed for 250, and they've already dropped down unofficially. So, I mean, I would agree with the 199 Acer Haswell. If you can't touch $200 pricing with a Baytrail, it's not worth it.
Right, in the Australia site, which is what leaked, which is what has released. They have a $449 AUD that includes the tax. So let's see something here. Now, of course, we all know that this doesn't translate perfectly. They're saying this is like $400 US, but that doesn't translate properly, to be honest. So we can't really say that. But
well, unless they have it,
right,
half it, halve it.
It's a Baytrail with 13-inch monitor, but it's still the same resolution though. It's pretty thin. It's decent. I mean, it's a decent model. I mean, so I guess we'll have to see what it prices out here, but because that really never translates correctly. So, all right. So that's what the pricing looks like. But I'm going to say probably like $350 or $320, just because it is a 13-inch screen. So.
Yeah.
All right. Meh.
Yeah.
I think I lost one of my articles. Oh, poop. Hold on one second. Let me just grab that back. So the next article that we had up actually was that. Make sure I've got this up here. No, I've still got it. I'm sorry. So they're Chromecast based, right? So I've been rocking the Chromecast. Ran into a guy at work that's been rocking the Chromecast. Ran into two families the other day that have turned off cable and are using Amazon Prime and Netflix. They didn't mention Chromecast. It's okay. I still respect it. But it's interesting to see that more and more people are really jumping off the cable bandwagon and getting into the Chromecast. But what Chromecast has got up right now is that you can queue videos to your Chromecast, and basically there's just now like a TV queue, and you can even have multiple different tabs, and you just tab it into the and you just hit the add to queue, so you can just be chilling and have multiple tabs open, and you just throw that to the queue, and then that to the queue, and then you're searching over here in this new tab. That's pretty cool. The other thing is that if you do have the beta version of the extension, which I do here, I'm on my screen, I can kind of share it, and you can see if you have beta, that you have the little beta icon, a little red box there. You kind of see it there, and you can see there's my Chromecast in my house. So you actually have the option for 1080p, although it looks like I haven't updated my extension. But you should have a 1080p option for. I wonder why I don't have that. All right, Google. Hopping. Anyway, so you're supposed to be able to do it in 1080p, but in the beta version, now I got to read. It should be there. Custom mirror settings. Options. Huh. I guess I haven't updated the app. Maybe I don't know.
Are you using the beta version of the Google Cast extension?
I am. Yes, sir, I am. See, if I click this, it's a little red beta.
Ah, true.
So that's interesting.
Or, well, isn't tab casting overall still in beta?
I think so, yeah.
So,
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think you need to, John, I'm not sure what you're looking at. Let me look at the screen that you're sharing real quick. Can you scroll? You can't scroll down any farther than that?
Nope. That is it.
Because on mine, if you scroll down below that, there's a whole other section called Custom Mirroring Settings. And that's where you can set the resolution 1920. So it looks like the 1080p is only for tab casting. I don't think it's going to work for sending YouTube videos or Netflix. Maybe YouTube, because I think when you cast YouTube, it just tab casts anyways or something. I'm not really sure how that works, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to stream Netflix. At least that's the way it reads to me, because it seems like the setting is only for tab casting.
I gotcha.
But I could be wrong.
All right.
Well, Netflix and YouTube should both stream in 1080p, assuming A, the content is available in 1080p, and B, your connection is capable of handling it.
Correct.
Right.
So that doesn't go through tab casting. That goes through your computer talking to your router that talks to your Chromecast that tells it, go out to the web and get this content method, whatever magic that is. So I think this is more for if you want to watch a stream that doesn't support Chromecasting, or if you want to display photos maybe you've taken and you've got them on Flickr or something that doesn't have built-in Chromecasting yet. So you get that good, nice crisp 1080p resolution.
Right, exactly. I totally agree. I think that's what it's kind of more or less for. I've done a little bit of tab casting just for like, but it's just right now it is really not. It's not that great. I mean, it's just, you guys know that I do like the O game, right? So, if you tab cast this, everything just takes forever, right? So it would just, you can see on my screen there, that takes a long time. That's like a lot of like PHP and JavaScript going on, and it's slow.
Well, it definitely depends on your host device. I've never had good experience with any of my Chromebooks, but my Windows 7 PC can handle it pretty much just fine. It really boils down to how much processing power you have available.
Yeah, that's true.
I tabcasted the Super Bowl a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago, and it was actually watchable. But then, and that was on the Acer C720. But then I tried to tabcast some World Cup, and it wasn't even watchable. It was so bad. So I'm not really sure if I was just having a bad internet day or what. But tabcasting the Super Bowl, it wasn't perfect, but it was watchable. It wasn't annoying to watch it, super jittery and whatnot. So it kind of also depends on other things, I think, because the Acer C720 for $199 seemed to handle one tabcasting experience fine and another one terribly.
Yeah, the Acer's all I really use for tabcasting, and the other thing is, I've had really good luck with HDMI though. I realize it makes me want a Chrome box real bad because the HDMI out is phenomenal. The tabcasting, the HDMI out's the bomb. So, all right. So that was our Chromecast portion, which I think is getting better and better every day. Not our portion of the show, but the Chromecast itself. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the main. We're going to jump in here, but first, before we get into the main, we're going to get into our second sponsor for the show. Been with us for a long time. We love them to death, and that is going to be the Effective Group. So, again, a great company that's been sponsoring this show. They love Chrome. They love Chromebooks. Trying to switch over their whole entire team. It's pretty cool what they're trying to do there. But so what is Effective Group? What do they do? Why do they sponsor this show? And what are they all about? Well, first of all, if you want to visit them, they're at www.effective-group.com. And what they provide someone with a client with is the ability to get online. And this is just recently a major website redesigned themselves so that they didn't have a tablet version, a mobile version, and then a desktop version, right? This was a pretty large news magazine site, and they were like, yeah, look at this, we're all fantastic, and we're all like, responsive design. That's what Effective Group's been doing actually for a long time. So they built responsive design websites for people. Like if they have there's a bakery, there's a couple of political sites that they have. There's a number of different sites going over whatever marketing you need, whether you're a local store or you're something that's over your entire country. The Effective Group is going to be able to get you online with a responsive design website that allows your site to respond to the size of the device instead of being a wholly different site with different buttons, different marketing, different, you might keep the colors the same, usually they do, but instead of having an M site, right, for mobile, your site simply just works, and it looks professional, and it has the same marketing throughout, no matter what size screen it's being looked at on. That's responsive design. They've been building these sites for quite some time, but they also provide you with the SEO management, where they're able to work with you on your Twitter. I'm sorry, not see, look, I got them confused. They also do that too, but first the SEO is the search engine optimization. That allows you, like, if you are local and someone's looking for baked goods, they make sure you're the first one that pops up, or they work with you on making sure that you are. Then they also work with the social media. So that way, and that's the other piece. That is, if you have a Twitter, or you don't even have a Twitter account, and for your business or for yourself, and you want a marketing campaign that will get you, pushing out the data onto those different social media websites, because they're searchable as well. So they work with you on that. It's a one-to-one relationship. There's one person that'll work with you usually. It's not like a large team, or there's a large help desk that you have to talk to. They work with a one-to-one with no tricky jargon and just straightforward advice and guidance based on what you're trying to do, right? So there's going to be one regular contact person that does all that for you. So again, visit Effective Group if you're looking to get yourself or your business online. You're looking to be available on Google, Yahoo, all the other search engines. You're looking to be on Twitter, G+, Facebook, huge with Facebook, especially when it comes to businesses and it comes to local groups and it comes to like bringing people together and liking a product. Facebook's huge. I love the G+, but definitely check out the Effective Group. Again, that's www.effective-group.com, and they will be able to help you out. They're based out of the UK, been in business for 15 years, but they can help anyone around the world get started. So again, check them out, www.effective-group.com. And again, thanks again to Effective Group. James, you can go ahead and come back now. I know that you take a little nap during this. So gentlemen, let's talk the N20p. This little $329 model from Lenovo, right, has some unique features. And guys, I know you don't have one, but I can tell you.
Rub it in, John.
James.
What else do you have that I don't?
So, what I'd like to do is just get you guys feedback on any questions you guys might have. I didn't ask you this before, but I wanted to. You'll notice this is the power strip, and I added a little sticker because I ended up getting the 11E Yoga as well, and they have an identical power strip, but the voltage and amperage outputs are different, but yet they have the exact same connector to the devices, which is one of my first kind of weird caveats / what the hey about the model. But I had to label it because I didn't want to get the amperage voltage wrong. I mean, it probably wouldn't have heard anything, but I mean they're different for a reason, right? But I had to label it because they're identical. It was weird. That was odd. But the Lenovo N20p. P again stands for touch for some odd reason. So, it does have your standard display, 11-inch screen. What is it? I can't even remember the thing, the 1366 768 deal. It's your standard stuff, but it is also like the Acer C720. It does have the touch interface, right? So you touch it, it gets all touchy-feely. And if you touch, where you're going to put you're going to type, it allows you to see the little thing come up. Now, the other thing that's about it, of course, is the fact that it does this little number where the keyboard turns off, touchpad turns off, and you're able to kind of sit this on a desk and then be able to use it, right? So I touch that, and there's the keyboard. I'm able to type it out, right? Super cool. It's a very interesting design. I kind of like it. It kind of has some nuances, and I'm just now noticing that the Chrome has a light in it. I didn't even notice that. Can you see how there's a little blue dot in the blue dot?
It's a camera, John.
Is it a camera? Well, hello world.
Stop pointing it at me.
Exactly. But you can see that, I mean, literally you can lay it flat. Once you bend it after a certain point, it does become the touch model, so you have this where it'll actually rotate into the different angles if you want. So right now I have, of course, have it in portrait. Some of the unique features of that are how the operating system responds. It doesn't respond the same as the C720 model that I have, especially also because it's touch. I don't have the P model. You guys have a P model, so there's something you guys have that I don't have. I don't have the P touch. That's right. Some of the added things are the fact that the keys don't work, but also you have this extra button to do these, like the system tray. So if I were to open up a page and then go ahead and go to the system tray, so to speak, the open app button. I can't remember that kind of stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. If I were to open multiple things, the Google Drive, and hit that button again, it's going to minimize, right? So you can see and you can X out. But of course that does change as you rotate. It'll rotate with you. You can actually put it upside down in tent mode if you wanted to. I don't think they advertise it like that because it probably doesn't have the little rubber nubbies to keep it up like that. But you could do that if you wanted to. So this design really, at first, didn't intrigue me whatsoever. Any questions about that, guys? I mean, like, what are your
How do
thoughts
you
on?
activate Metro?
That's a special button called buy a Windows machine.
Aha.
Yeah, terrible, right? Um,
Do you find yourself wishing it was 360 hinge or?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I don't know if I'll do it next week. I might do it the week after, but I will talk about that when we have. I do wish it did that. Okay, and the reason is, a couple things. One, there's these little nubbies because it's gonna be sitting on the ground and it needs nubbies. You know where it sits. So like these are when it's closed, they're there too, which I'm not a super big fan of. I don't know why I don't like that, but I don't. But because it doesn't rotate all the way around. And the 11E model is an education model, and it's beefy. Like it's a ThinkPad. So this, if it were to be this thin of a screen and have that rotation, I honestly don't know if. I mean, you'd have to build like a wicked hinge. The hinge on the 11E is wicked. I mean, it's tough. But this hinge is good, but you can tell that it's more Chromebook-like. It's only $330 for this model, and it does all these things. It rotates around. It does the convertible design. It has a touch screen. So. But yeah, I do wish it would collapse all the way down. That's a really good question because I do sometimes wish that it would. So the question becomes, why would you want a model that does all this crazy stuff, right? Does flat, will go like this, but once I wanted to do like a book form, but like once you close it enough, it actually switches back. But why would you want that, right? So I'm going to show you a picture real quick, and I've shared this with Craig and everybody when James was out, because James just doesn't. He's out. He was doing like whitewater rafting or something crazy. But this is my daughter using the N20p, right? So here she is, where she's playing a game on nickjr.com, and she's touching the screen, and the keyboard's not in the way. It becomes a 100% touch device, where it's not a tablet where she has to hold it, but it is much closer to her than she would want, right? So I mean, she got really excited, obviously, because she did get Max a couple of times. So it is a very unique design, right? I would say. Let me just show you that again. Turn on this video here. So, and here she was basically like showing off the fact that she was on there and she was loving every minute of it. And she found Max. So the point is though, when would you use that? And maybe like when you're drinking your coffee and you go and you want to read the news and you just want to click the buttons, and you don't want to have to deal with the keyboard, or you don't want to get the keyboard messy. Maybe this is something that you might want. I kind of see that aspect a little bit. You know what I mean? Like maybe if you're watching something and you want, or you just want to be able to have the keyboard that much closer.
I would use it mainly to look cool at Starbucks, I think.
James, you go to Starbucks a lot.
I do.
Do we have to have an intervention? You love
I just don't like being home. I don't know why. Being not home is so much better than being home. Even though my internet's 1,000 times better than Failbucks' internet.
That's right. So our next sponsor is Starbucks.
No.
Fun. Good stuff. So anyway, real quick. So again, about the design though, was this guy. So this is the power adapter's USB. I'm sorry.
It looks like USB.
This is the power adapter, and I wish. Oh, I don't even have anything. Let's do this. I meant to prep myself a little bit better, but so this, I'm covering up the manufacturer. This is a wireless dongle for a USB mouse, and this is the power adapter. So you can see how they're very. I mean, this one's bright yellow, of course, right? So that's the whole point. Is it's supposed and yellow on USBs meant that it actually had power when like the system was in like standby mode, right? So like blue means 3, yellow meant that it had power when the system was down. So again, that's more, again, just kind of distracting. So if I take it and I try and plug it into a USB port, it doesn't fit, but it wants, it kind of wants to. Where
USBs don't fit the first time anyways.
it's true, you got to flip them over, right? This actually will fit either way, up or down, but it slides right in. It's very simple and very easy to understand, and you're not looking for some micro hole with some weird adapter that you've never ever seen before, because it's like micro small or super big fat barrel that you're trying to find where that hole goes. But you are now they've like turned it around where you're now trying to find the right square hole. I'm like, how did you make this better? Not only that, but that's enormous. It's the size of a USB port, and it's taken up that much space. Meanwhile, they've set up a mini HDMI, which I don't really care for. I'd rather have a full HDMI instead of this enormous hole for the power. Again, that's just me being kind of critical about that. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, some people might actually like that it's just like this simple design, because it slides right in, just like a USB does. So it's really comfortable. Again, but that was just one of the idiosyncrasies. Another idiosyncrasy, before I get to Baytrail, which I think is going to be the big thing there, is the touchpad. And this is the same on the other Lenovo model, and that is when you touch it, there's actually already a little bit of a click. There's almost like a hollow, like there's a little bit of, I don't know if you can hear it. I'm tapping it. There's a little bit of a sound. And then when you click it, there's a sound. But like you have to, it's odd. In comparison to, everyone always says that the Acer C720 model has a cheap trackpad, and I don't mean to belittle this device. I think it's great. The keyboard is actually much better than my Acer. But the touchpad, even though it's bigger, I don't like it. It has this weird metallic-y tap sound because it is moving slightly when I touch it, even when I'm doing just a gentle tap instead of a click.
My wife's HP 14 does that too, and when I complained about it, there's several other people in the Chromebooks community that said the same thing about their HP 14. My HP 14 doesn't do that, but my wife's does.
So maybe it's just, I mean, honestly, maybe it's just like a use thing, because this is a review model, so it's been through many, many hands. And so maybe it's just after a while. But then again, I've had my Acer C720 for 8 months now. Yeah. So, and I use that every single day, and it's going on strong. So that would be my only concern there. So, screen crisp. You guys have 720p's, and you have the glossy display. I really don't like the glossy display. I really don't. I don't like the fact that I can like literally, if I'm in the sun or if I have a bright light behind me, I have to figure out a viewing angle that I can actually work with. Versus the non-glared C720 model, which doesn't have that. It has the matte display.
For the record, I wasn't napping during your commercial, but I was fixing the glare on my super glossy screen, which is why I was appearing off screen for a while.
See, there you go. All right. So real quick before we get to Baytrail, size. So 720. Then here's the Lenovo, which is basically they're almost identical, like literally almost identical. Thickness-wise, you can see that the 720 has that wonderful like rise to it because of the feet on the back end, because of the fan, where the N20 of course has no fan, so it does not need to breathe, unlike the Haswell. Haswell needs to breathe. So that's the other question, guys, is the Haswell. So what's my take on the Haswell? My take on the Haswell is Craig recently told me that that one commit landed and it's going to be pushed through to stable and all them. That the Baytrail is actually going to get a little bit more battery life. It's going to depend on your model, things like that. But you might actually get 5 to 10%, maybe less. But it's more battery life, even more. And the Baytrail already has a huge amount. So they're already finding, Chrome OS is always going to be improving, and that could be with the hardware as well. So Baytrail could get better. And I was trying to find if I had the images from, I took the screenshot, or not screenshots, I took I take screenshots or did I take pictures with my phone? But I took the. Okay, we all know about the octane scores, right? And I'm gonna see if I can find them, but I don't know if I have them. But I took pictures of the octane scores because they are radically different. The Baytrail gets a lot less. It's like it's in the ARM territory. And of course, I've taken tons of pictures and they've all been backed up. So that's been the. We went to Dutch Wonderland over the weekend, awesome place in Pennsylvania. So let's see if I can find that. Here they are. So here we go. So this is 7376 was the octane score for, and again, this was in guest mode, just rebooted, good to go. And then and I'll put that on the screen, although it's sideways. Let me rotate it. So you can see that it was 7376, and then over here we have on the 7264. Oh, that's right. I updated it. It needed an update after I got it, and I ran it first, and then I ran it again, and it actually got a little bit worse. But if you look at it, if you really zoom in, you can see it actually got better on some areas and worse on others. So, and then here we have, now this is the 11E, and again, in a couple weeks we'll do this one, but this actually had 6872. So you might be thinking, oh, well, that's not too bad. Well, the problem is that the Acer C720 gets something like 12, I think. Let me double check real quick. I think it gets around 12 for the Haswell chip. So if you're gaining an hour, so I'm going to sign out here. Then I'm going to sign out. I'm going to sign in. We'll do a live octane score. So to be able to say that the Baytrail is worth it, I really don't know, guys. Because, and I can't really do it with a screen share, but I can do it here with. What I'll do is, let me do this. We'll do a little live thing. Any questions while I kind of set this up? I'm going to do a live. I'm going to go to 3JS. I'm going to go to the team over at 3JS. I'm going to go to, on both machines, I'm going to sign out. I'm going to go into guest mode, and I'm going to show you kind of what I mean by the performance issues. And they're not based on what you would think. I think that tab-wise, these are both 2 gigabyte machines. Tab-wise, everything runs about the same. I wouldn't say that it's much faster on the Baytrail or the Acer. They're kind of the same, especially like Craig said earlier, compared to a Windows machine sometimes, because of all the horsepower inside of those. Like you're definitely seeing a difference if you're using Chrome on something like that. You're going to see a lot more horsepower. So if I'm going to take the octane score. Any questions about the model? Any questions you guys might have about it?
Who do you think the devices, these specific models, would be best for? Are these going to be, well, we know one of them is education-based, but do you see that model having a place in schools alongside the C720?
I do, because of the fact that, the lower end things that you want to do with 3D graphics, especially when it comes to education, like you're not necessarily going to be playing a 3D game for education, but if you go to that one site, again, last week we did it, and I can't remember the name of it. It's called like Basic Human, where it's a 3D model of the, a 3D model of the human body. It works fine, right? I mean, it's the same as the other ones. You know what I mean? It's no different. Doesn't really act any worse than another Chromebook. I think that.
So you don't see the performance as a hindrance for education?
Not for education, no, not at all. I would say no, not at all. Because of the fact that you have like this, you have the convertible options, so like the kids can be at their desk and rotate them forward, things like that. With the 11E model, that's going to be a different discussion. Because of the fact that I don't know necessarily, because it is a full convertible, I mean a full, flipping into a tablet, that I don't know if it's meant for the teachers or the students, to be honest. I mean, it is very tough, but we'll get into that as well. Hold on one second, I didn't. Tito. So, please work. I didn't set up the Wi-Fi. There we go. I didn't have the Wi-Fi shared with other users, so the guest user had to get my. So I'm going to run again. So this is the Acer C720, and I'm going to run that. Remember that we were looking at 7000s range for the. And again, I'm in guest mode. So I'm running Octane on the Acer C720 model, which is this one. I'm going to pull that back. Screen sharing my. So I'm running it on here, and then again I can, and then I want to pull up the 3JS on this one. So 3JS is a JavaScript library for running 3D graphics. Basically, is what it is. And let's see if I can get something kind of cool that we can look at this together here. So is this done yet? No. So really quickly, super quick. I know I should be going faster, but
It's done.
is it done? Cool. So a lot of these things on 3GS are like experiments and, you know, some game here or there. Or, so that's pretty cool. So it's done, and it got 11,500. So you're looking at a third slower on a Baytrail, and you get an hour more time. And honestly, the 3D rendering is what really gets kind of slow. So, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this to like 80. So right now I'm running, but like I said before, like it does work. So this is a 3D rendering that's going on, and it's working fine, right? So, and with that, it's getting like, so it's weird. Sometimes it works really well. This is getting 60 frames per second. If I were to add like, 200. Oh, this is like some random test. Not really fair. See, it's still working really well. So I mean, that's got. So I really can't really say that was really even a good. So right now, it's actually doing really well. What I've done though is what I've seen is that sometimes it doesn't do as well. So here's the ragdoll effect with 32 ragdolls. And so if I do demo 1 and they fall, I'm looking at 31 frames per second, 28. So that was all the ragdolls, right? So versus on the Acer C720, again, totally random test. 1 second. Let's see if I can even find the same website. So my point is that the Baytrail, yes. Is it adequate? Yeah. It's adequate, but I don't know if it's not as powerful as the Haswell. So to say that it is, or to say that, you know, you're going to be getting the same amount of performance. So I'm going to go to Ragdoll. I found it, so that's good. We have 32. Go to demo 1. Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. Wow. Well, there you go. I don't know what my original tasks were, because this one says 31 frames per second on demo 1, 33, 45. It actually fluctuates in between. When they were at 40, what were they at before?
31.
Yeah, 31. So I mean, this is actually identical. So that, on this test, it's actually identical. I can't remember what it was. I did something and like it didn't render. Maybe because there's been an update. I'm not sure.
Did you do the fishbowl test?
I can do that really quickly. That'll only take a second. Uno momento, por favor. Craig, you're awfully quiet. Any questions?
No questions. I mean, octane tests and performance measurements have never really been my key interest. I'm more about real-world performance, how the device feels while you're using it. Have you noticed anything major, like a showstopper, where you're just switching between tabs and it just feels like you hit that spot where it's taken forever, or has it been relatively quick?
It's been identical to the Acer C720. Because you're right, there are spots when you do hit like some kind of weird that you would never see on a more powerful machine. I agree with you. But I would say that they're identical. So in this instance, but right now, here's the other problem with that is that like all the Baytrail models are the same price as the Haswell. So I guess the question is going to be, you have your octane scores like Craig said, but it's an interesting dynamic there. Because what do what can you? Because it's so.
I'd be interested in a list of web apps that are processor intensive. Because the things I do most of the time probably wouldn't notice the difference between a Haswell and a Baytrail too much. Mostly just browsing the internet and stuff. I don't even know what I could do besides random tests like octane scores to actually push the processor and see if I can get a different user experience. Hangouts is probably one. I think that everything else seems to go kind of slow when I'm doing a Hangout.
Well, right now I'm on the Baytrail on the 11E, and it's been working fine. I've actually been sharing my screen. I've been broadcasting from it, and it's actually been working pretty well. There's no lag. You guys can see. I don't know if you can. Well, hello. No, it's no longer sharing. Oops. That's weird. Hold up. That's weird. Did it crash? No, do that. Okay, let's try it again. Hold on. So I wasn't experiencing any lag with that. There you go. So yeah, so I'm sharing right now. You can see the double screens there, and you can see that I'm not. Now I'm going to go over into one of my other tabs here, and you can see that it's using the 2-finger scroll, 3-finger swipe. All the screens are coming up. Everything's flying by. Google Plus is going to be a big one, right? So if I open Google Plus right now, this is a 4 gigabyte model, so this is going to be a little bit different. But you can see that it's working pretty well. It's pretty quick. Pretty quick. Bunch of GIFs, as usual. On the YouTube, on the Google Pluses. So that's, Craig, it's a good question. Like in the real world, what are we seeing, right? And I would say that I'm seeing basically the same performance that I see out of most Chromebooks, right? Which is a really good performance, but in a light machine that can do like the HTML and stuff like that. So you're getting it, they're really good. I used the N20 exclusively for the past like 2 weeks, and I have not seen anything where I said, except for the first few 3D renders, I was like, wow, that's not all that great. But they've both also gotten, I think, updates since then. So maybe the Google team, the Chromium team, just doing amazing work on these, and they're getting things better when you've got them. So. And it is interesting to see that octane score, but yet when I did the scores benchmarks on those other sites, just the regular 3D rendering was actually working really well on that simple type of task. I just did the fishbowl. I didn't show it to you, but basically the fishbowls were almost identical. So that's kind of what we can say about that. I love this GIF, by the way. If you're looking at my screen, it's freaky-diggy. Do you see it? There's a dude crawling out the thing. Do you not see that?
Pretty creepy, John.
Yeah, way creepy. All right. So that's the N20p, and I think that this isn't necessarily an education model. Remember, this is a consumer-based model, and I would say that it is tougher than the Acer C720. The build design's it's a lot better. The keyboard is actually a lot better than the Acer. You can actually see that it's also serviceable as one unit with the piece there. Baytrail has been really, really good. Battery's been as expected, in like the 8 to 10 range that I expect. The only things I have with the trackpad, the weird battery issue, but otherwise a really solid unit. And only like 4 ounces heavier than the C720p.
John, you might want to check your microphone connection real quick.
What happened? Am I better? Is it better? No.
No.
For it. How about now? Oh dear. Oh dear. Alright, hold on.
That was better.
Wow. It is better
Way
now.
better.
We were
We should
hearing
do the whole show like this.
Yeah, we were hearing fuzz and static. That seems to be the problem.
This is awkward.
I'm assuming this will get edited out of the MP3.
Well, in that case, we can say whatever we want, right?
I wouldn't push the limits.
Can John even hear us right now?
I have no idea.
Dang it.
Well, it looks like he can. He's nodding. Huh.
Well, that's odd.
It is. I wonder what the problem is. Maybe it was I was wondering if it was a problem with the little filter piece that goes over his headset. You know how sometimes you'll get like a piece of dust or something on it, and it'll just crackle, crackle, crackle.
Yeah.
Or unless when he was swinging those devices around, he pulled his cord off or something.
I know, that's what I was thinking. He has too many Chromebooks over there.
I know. What's going on with that? I think we need to have an intervention for John.
Yeah, I mean, I only have 3. I think that's a good number for a person.
I have 4, but I'm looking to get rid of at least a couple of them. So.
Well, we can talk about how awful Baytrail is without John.
We can. It's interesting to hear that the real-world performance is similar to Haswell. That's not something I would have thought of, and we may see that the gap get bigger as more complex apps start showing up. Like you mentioned, there's not a lot right now that can really test one of these devices, but as we start to see more complex native client-based apps, that could become a real issue. I mean, for example, some of the old Atom devices probably aren't going to take to native client very well. That's just a theory, but I don't think they're going to take to it very well. And I'm worried that the Baytrail is going to be similar. And of course, you're probably worried that ARM is going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. It's pretty bad when Google Plus is your best benchmark app for a web device. The first thing anyone does when they get a Chromebook is open Google Plus and see how well that works. So what else? There's got to be something else out there. That Bastion game that I played for a while, that probably would be a good test, because there's a lot of graphical things going on at one time in that game.
Right. I think you're onto something with the Google Plus metric. But I've never had luck with Google Plus on any device, even my desktop. It's just awful, and I hate to say that, but I mean, I've noticed it with Twitter now too. Some of their latest redesigns are really starting to slow things down, and I don't know if it's a network issue, like if it's using too much Ajax where it's trying to refresh in the background, or if it's just really JavaScript heavy when it comes to basic elements. I don't know what the problem is, but I think the experience could probably be improved for everybody overall, just with some optimization.
Mm-hmm. They should give us an FPS counter on Google Plus.
I'm quite positive it's there. That seems like exactly the type of thing Google would put in a debug tool or something. maybe play around in console for a little bit and see if you can activate it.
It'd be interesting.
Definitely.
Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I'm using the Lenovo onboard mic, not on the Chromebook, but on the yeah. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Like literally, my computer had like a conniption. So, but good. I could hear you guys, and you guys were doing very well. Yeah. So Baytrail, I don't know if it's that bad at this point. I don't know. I'll have to keep testing. And James, I heard
Put Linux on it.
You funny. You're a funny man. I could try doing Crouton on the device, but
Send it back to them with Crouton on it.
that's
You're welcome.
That's what I was just going to say is that you're not allowed to do that. So
Now it runs Skype. You're doing them a favor.
no. I wanted to see how well Bastion would work because I do have it loaded. Well, at least I thought I did. But I honestly don't think we're going to see any problems with Bastion. Do you really think you'd see a problem with Bastion?
I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to tell. I've never owned an ARM.
Game.
What's that?
It's a 2D game.
It is 2D game. There's a lot going on, but I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to because I've only ever played it on. The best comparison I can do is a 2 gig versus a 4 gig machine, both running Haswell, and I didn't notice any difference between the Acer or the HP 14. But yeah, I also am not super technical, so I don't really know how much that game is actually pushing the processor. It just seems to me like there's a lot of stuff going on, at least more than a ChromeStory.com or OMG Chrome, just some blog. There's actually things moving around.
Actually, it didn't load. Interesting. Now I'll test that out. I also want to test. What's that?
There's one advantage that I want to bring up. The Baytrail may perform about the same as the ARM, but and correct me if I'm wrong, as usual, it is still an x86 chip. Am I correct?
You are correct.
So you're not going to have the limitations that the ARM Chromebooks have, like not being able to upload music to Google Music and a couple of other the random little limitations. And it seems like hopefully we won't run into those kind of things, but I could be wrong.
No, you're absolutely right, Craig. You can back me up on that. You're not because ARM is a different architecture. X86 is more prevalent. They've been having a much easier time getting things to work on x86. So it takes more effort to get ARM to work. More development.
Well, only if you consider ARM an afterthought. If you're targeting ARM, it doesn't take any more work necessarily. But if you're treating ARM as an afterthought, then yeah, it takes more development time, just as targeting Windows as a platform after you've already made a nice shiny Mac app takes more work.
With the Baytrail coming out, I see it being a much smaller chance that anybody would be specifically targeting ARM architecture and treating x86 as an afterthought. I think for now, most people are probably going to develop for the x86, and then if they're nice, they'll give us ARM support as well.
Well, I see your point, but the goal would be that with Portable Native Client, it's a non-issue, because the goal isn't to target an architecture anymore. It's to write a great app and have it work everywhere. But your point does stand when it comes to things that are using standard native client, like the Google Play Music upload tool or the Google Plus Photos editor for a little while. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to get away from targeting any architecture and having any afterthoughts. It's all about living in now.
That's
Amen,
right.
brother.
Exactly.
Preach it.
That's right. That's right, Craig. Preach it. So, all right. So that was our little review. One other thing I wanted to add before we left off on that, and then I'm going to do this next week too, or whenever I would do the. Really? Really? Seriously?
That's every Chromebook, though, isn't it?
No, and it doesn't have to be. Yes, it's with the C720, but the 11E goes all the way in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
And for listeners that aren't watching the YouTube video, we are talking about the SD card slot.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank
you. People are like, it doesn't go in. What are they talking about?
It only took the tip.
The SD card slot is a common pain point for a lot of people. Because a lot of people complain about the 16 gigabytes of onboard storage being not enough. And the easiest way, bar using a flash drive, is just to buy an SD card and plug it in. A lot of people have them from their phones, and they just use a little converter. And John's showing a nice picture of how it should work on a Chromebook, where it sits nice and almost flush.
Almost.
Yeah, but I mean, that's flush enough that you could stick that in a case and not have to worry about buying a bigger case.
Exactly.
Yeah, or it breaking off or something.
Right. That's the dream.
No,
That's
they
the
could just
dream.
make USB sticks go all the way in. That'd be awesome.
Some of those are like that. I have again, Lenovo makes a good product. This is my one for my Rocketfish mouse, which I think are, and they have 64 gigabyte versions that are this big, so of drives. So they can get small, but
They
you gotta
do have
pull it back out.
somebody. What's that website called? Where you get funding for Kickstarter. Somebody kickstarted some SD cards. They made them for the MacBook, so they fit perfectly flush with the MacBook. But somebody tried it in the Chromebook and it worked well too. It wasn't quite as pretty because it was designed for the MacBook, so it fit right in the slot and took up all the space. Around the Chromebook there was a little gap or something, but it did. It was about half the size of a normal SD card. So if you have a Chromebook that isn't as awesome as John's, you might look into one of those half SD cards that were made for the MacBook, but apparently work just fine on the Chromebook as well.
You know what's funny is I've been able to shine a light through this, and there's like nothing. There's nothing in there but like a little bit where the board connects to the actual. So like literally, it's all here. Like where my finger is actually where everything is.
It's like a bag of chips.
Exactly. It's all settled at the bottom.
It's all air.
Exactly. So they could design them to be, but then the problem becomes getting them out. I mean, you shouldn't have to get a special tool to like get out your USB or get out your.
These had a little I forget what it was. There's maybe a little tiny lanyard. I don't think it was a lanyard. I think there's a little hole in the corner of the SD card, so it stuck out of your Chromebook about as far as the one on your Lenovo did there. And then so you would need something to just grab that hole. But the idea is you're not going to be removing the SD card from the device very often. That's why you're looking for one that goes all the way in, so you can just stick it in there and have expandable memory, and you can get it out when you need to. So if you just need some little safety pin or something to grab that hole and yank the card out. Is how that one worked.
There you go. I've seen that on SIM cards too. Some of the SIM card ports had that little hole. So that's a good idea. So all right. Anyway, so that was the last thing. I think that's going to be it for the show. The Lenovo N20p, a great model. I really do think it's a lot more sturdy. But you know what? The Acer C720p is sturdy too, right? Don't you guys think the comparison to the regular C720, just because it has the glass back end, it has like that, it's a little more tough. When I'm constantly getting that whole like line on my screen from the non-P model, but I don't know. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to keep using it. I'm going to switch to the 11E a little bit more. But I think it's a great model for $330. Baytrail's a question, but I mean, we just showed just now how like it really wasn't really a question. I mean, we have the octane score, but what does that really mean when I've never actually noticed a difference, and even the 3D stuff I just tried was working pretty darn well. So, anywho.
Arbitrary numbers mean everything, John.
That's right. Darn those arbitrary numbers. When it was like, dang it, that Baytrail, if it just got a good octane score, maybe we could pay octane. Well, actually, it's a Google thing, but anywho. All right, gentlemen. Thanks again. Craig, where can people find Mr. Tumbleson throughout the week so that they can find out that he still mutes his thing and doesn't like talk as much because he's all like waiting for a turn?
People can find me on Google Plus, John, or at chromeup.com.
Will you wait your turn? Just mute himself. All right, Mr. Wellness, you don't wait your turn, sir. You speak your mind.
Yes, I do speak my mind. A little too often on Google Plus, probably for the Chromebooks community moderators. You'll also find me on Chromebook.reviews, where I do not speak my mind. I speak other people's minds.
There you go, awesome. And of course, my name is John Oliphant, and you can find me on the Google Pluses under John Oliphant. I'm all there, out there, and loving every minute of it. And of course, you can find us at practicalchrome.com every week. We're live again every week at Tuesday at 10:10. We have an MP3. Which means that you can get us on a podcast. If you have like a podcasting app, you can pick us up. Download us every week. Get us fresh every Wednesday morning, roughly. And then of course we do our on the YouTube, so you can play us in the background. You can play us on the Chromecast. We're everywhere. Again, head over to practicalchrome.com, catch the latest on the news, reviews, everything Chrome related, and check that out. Again, practicalchrome.com. Again, gentlemen, thank you very much. You guys have a good rest of the week, all right?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Craig's still not going to unmute. You're not going to... He's killing me!
What do you want me to say, John?
I don't know. It's three guys just laughing it up. All right.
Lost him.
I did. That's all right. The sounds don't really work. All right, guys. We'll see you later.